Good afternoon, one and all. Welcome back to the induction program organized exclusive for the first year students of EPCET by Department of Basic Science, East Point College of Engineering and Technology. Dear participants, we know how difficult it is for all of us to come online and learn, but this is the new normal. Having said that, we are going to witness another eminent speaker about whom we were always talking about, Mr. Salesh Kumar, from the industry, but very much a student from heart. With this, may I request our host, Dr. G. Maruti sir, to formally start the induction program. May I request G. Maruti sir to come and start the program, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon to one and all. From morning, in fact, from last 3 days, what we noticed is the students are very interactive with the resource persons. Hope students must be definitely enjoying it. I know that all the students are not attending, but many of the students are attending, and whoever is attending, definitely they are listening to the resource person seriously and they are interacting. With this observation, I formally welcome our today's great personality and happens to be the best friend of our Dhananjay Kumar, Mr. Shailesh Kumar, who is working for an industry. I welcome him on behalf of our East Point group of institutions, East Point College of Engineering and Technology, on behalf of our principal, HODs, my colleagues, and on behalf of my students and on my personal behalf. I also welcome our beloved principal, who always to be in the induction program in spite of his busy schedules. In fact, he had a marathon HODs meeting from morning. In fact, I left it in the middle of the meeting and I came out. Principal sir was continuing the meeting with the HODs, but in spite of that, he always find a time to attend this induction program. I welcome our beloved principal, Dr. Prakash, and I also welcome Mr. Dhananjay Kumar, who is nicely moderating the programs, and every time he will be reminding the HODs, principal, everyone. And in fact, he is the host for this induction program. I welcome Dhananjay Kumar sir. I also welcome my respected HODs, my esteemed colleagues, and very importantly, the students for this program. Now, with this, I request Mr. Dhananjay Kumar to give a brief introduction about the guest. Then Principal sir will address the students for a minute. Over to you, Dhananjay sir.
Thank you so much, sir. As already spoken about the guest by Maruti sir, rightly said, the person is a friend of mine, so is the friend of everybody. Mr. Shailesh Kumar, talking about his professional career, he is associated with TE Connectivity as Global Product Manager. He has got 2 decades of experience into sales, marketing, general management, organizational leadership, and product and portfolio management. His expertise also lies in the field of medical device and life science sector. Coming to his education, Mr. Shailesh has done Executive General Management from Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore, Bachelor of Technology in Chemical Engineering from Harcourt Butler Technical University. Coming to the hobbies, he loves playing cricket, football, badminton, swimming, and most importantly, talking to people. He's a strong believer of give and take policy. The same could be seen on the cricket ground. With this short introduction, I do not want to waste the time of the audience. May I request our speaker of the day, Mr. Shailesh Kumar, to say hi to all the audience.
Hello everyone, Shailesh here.
Yeah.
Hello, sir.
We have also with us our beloved principal, Dr. Prakash S., principal of East Point College of Engineering and Technology. May I request Prakash sir to speak a few words to our audience?
Good afternoon. At the again full packed sessions, a series of sessions what we had. Thanks to Shailesh Kumar sir, very kind of you sir. Thanks for your time and effort coming out to us and addressing our students. Uh, uh, it's nice that you've been telling the storytelling about the theme is about storytelling.
Yeah,
And you've been expertise and you've been handling medical equipment, and this is a very tough time today. Uh, India is facing a very bigger crisis. The complete healthcare sector is under challenge now. Lot of equipments, healthcare equipments, need of healthcare equipment, need of oxygen. How storytelling becomes very, very important in this pandemic time, and
absolutely.
how to keep wellness, how to keep motivating the people. We see a lot of people, near ones, dear ones, been the victim for this COVID and coronavirus. Uh, what I request everyone is to listen to best expert we have got today here, Shailesh Kumar ji. I think you need to. We are very eager to listen to him. Uh, More specifically, I love the subject and theme of storytelling. It has impacted a lot in my life. A lot of storytelling I've been listening from my grandparents, not only about in terms of business perspective, but certain storytelling. It has become a stereotype for me, and it has
Yeah,
taken forward to my journey in my professional career also. So it is not just about a simple philosophy, but it really adds lot of value addition to each and everybody. And especially in this time, in this pandemic time, it is going to add a lot of value. Okay. Thanks to Shailesh Kumar once again for taking your time for us, sir. We are it's highly we are privileged to have you on this show, sir. Thank you so much. Over to you, sir.
thank you.
Dhananjay.
Thank you, Dr. Prakash.
Thank you
Thank you,
so
sir.
much, sir. Thanks for your time. Without wasting much of time, because time is precious and we do understand, students are eagerly waiting to listen to our speaker of the day, storyteller of the day, Mr. Shailesh Kumar. So over to you, Mr. Shailesh.
Thank you, Dhananjay. Uh, Thank you, Dr. Prakash, Dr. Maruti, for your kind words. It's pleasure and honor be here addressing the students. I basically thought about a lot, and this is my favorite topic, storytelling. And what I believe in life, we do many great things, but we fail to communicate best story to the audience, and that's how it's a fine difference between a successful person and a person who does normal things, right? And that's all begins when during our childhood days, when our mother tells the story and diverts our attentions from a destructive thing to the constructive thing, right? So that's how it starts the story. Let me share my deck to you so that we can have a more interaction. Okay, it's already, oops. Let me know when you can see my deck. Yeah.
Yeah, we can see that.
Okay. So I think the first thing I would like to ask is, what is the word made of? This is a simple thing which should begin it. Is that the made? It is made of the atoms, the molecules, or what? But when I look at the word, it is all made of stories. If somebody would have not told about atoms, right, and it relates to my life, it is very tough for me to understand what is atoms or molecules. So somebody has to tell me what it means in my life, why there are tree exist, why there are on cars on the road. It has to deliver a message. It has to deliver a story saying that yes, the tree exists to give us a life. So that is why it is very important to understand our surroundings and see that what we want to do is that we want to make anything significant in this life. How does it matter? Am I impacting to the environment? Am I impacting to the human being, animals, right? What is the purpose of my life? So that story has to be well written, well understood. There is a very nice concept if you look at in Japanese. It's called ikigai, right? The meaning of ikigai is a reason for being, and there is a belief that why Japanese live very long because they have a reason to live. They have reason for being. For everything, whatever they do, it matters. Whether it's a time management, whether it's a respect for other people, whether they do any smallest to smallest job. That is why it is important. So it's always good to understand ikigai, what you love, what the world needs or our environment need, what other people need, what I need, what is my profession, what I'm doing, am I happy in this my profession or not, right? What we are good at, am I doing something which I'm good at now? So it is very important. We need to understand reason for being or ikigai, right? I will not spend much time on this ikigai. There are enough material available over online. You can go and read, but this is a phenomenal, very nice concept, reason for being. I think many of us we have seen this video. It's a very famous Simon. He has n number of videos available on TED, right? And that's what exactly what he says, that why. He starts everything from why, right? That's a core. If we start questioning why are we doing this, why are we doing engineering today as a first year engineering student, why are we doing engineering for mechanical engineering or a computer software engineering, is that a reason for that, what I'm trying to do it? And once we have an answer for those whys, we will see that how. So how is that you are already in the college, you are going to do it. And once you do that, what are you going to do with this degree, with your knowledge which you are going to gain in the next 4 years, right? So this is how you need to start articulating that why are you doing this? Is that for money? Money, I always believe it's a byproduct. It will not give you the happiness. You need to start thinking, can I develop something which will help for the audience, which will help for the people, which will help for the environment, which will help for the better cause? Can I articulate any problem statement, right? So that's how we start looking at why statement first, and then you know the how, and then what. So go to this link and try and understand why, how, and what. This is another one which is very easy to connect. Start with the start, a very compelling story. Why? Address the why and add as much as visual you can add in your story, because the visual will give you a better idea. What important in this why story? It should be not very long. It should be very small, just probably a 1 minute story. Many times we call it elevator pitch. It has to be very, very impactful. Circle back. Start when you started with the why, end with the why, right? Remember, your audience should be well engaged, and you need to remind a main important point maybe multiple time with more emphasis. And the last but not the least, have action points for yourself as well as for the audience if required. And there is very important says by Maya, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel, right? If you look at this picture, it talks about story, right? So that's very important. You start with the why, very compelling story, start and address the why. Connect with the audience. There is a structure exist, which very famous structure. It's called pyramid principle. If you start with the situation, and then lead to the complications, and then formally articulate the question, right? That phase is called introduction. If you look at here, SCQ, this is a sequence: situation, complications, and question. This is how, when you create a situation, give a complication, and then frame the question, it's called considered. Most of the time, audience consider your opinion, your introduction. But if you first put the complications, then situation, and then question, it is called mostly the direct, right? And when the question comes first, then situation, and then complications, it's definitely a concern, right? And many times you can feel this, since I can't see you people, but many times when you see the expressions, basically the audience express with the nodding or paying attention or being curious. So when you start with the introductions, you move to the argument section. In the argument section, basically you present more your different opinions, data to support, and then finally reach to the conclusion. Oops. Yeah. In this, there could be a multiple iterations where you may reach to a situation called mutually exclusive and mutually exist, right? Where there could be a more than one answer if you win or lose, but there could be a tie as well. So the argument can lead many times to tie, and that's how you need to find a common ground. See that, is that you are creating a common ground or not. And finally, once you draw all these things, it leads to the conclusion, the action points, what you're going to achieve it. Let's start this. In your moving career forward, you will see whether you go and join any organization or you start your own as a startup company, or you join any NGOs or whatever organization. Every time you need to tell the story, whether you are a R&D manager, or you are a business manager, or you are in sales, you are in HR, you are in education field, you have to deliver the message to your audience, right? You may do many research papers, but if you're not able to tell to the people who are going to buy your ideas, right, what is the value they are going to get it, they will not buy. The research will remain there, but it will not be beneficial for the people, for you. So it is important to start looking at those aspects, how you can tell this best story. So structure your way, the pyramid principle, and start looking at, are you giving a right situation? Are you giving a right complications and articulating your problem statement? All the problem statements should lead to the argument, and argument should lead and supported by data. Please acknowledge all the data from wherever you are taking those data. That's very important. That builds your credibility also. So how do you frame this your deck? Because most of the time now in your future, you have to present in some form. So your heading or your main point or a key message should be delivered from the headings. Is that the introduction? Is that the key analysis you are going to make it? Is that something which you are believe in that? Any presentation which you are going to make it, build evident flow from left to right, because that's a natural, we'll see from left to right. So try and see that your message should go from left to right. It should not be jumbling from right to left, from north to south. It should be left to right, right? And the key message always you need to deliver at the end. This is very important. Any slide which you prepare, n number of comment, n number of analysis, but please make sure you have to have a key message delivered for each of your slides. And another important thing which I would like to highlight here, all these slides should connect from your previous slide. It should not be disconnected from your previous slide. So something which you have spoken in your previous slide is that connecting. So my previous slide was the pyramid principle, right? When I move to the next slide, this. So my introduction should flow the same way. My argument should flow the same way. My data should flow same way, right? That is what is very important, connecting the slides from one over one. Some of the basic things or tips which I would like to give it here before you build any presentations. So I have seen many presentations which leads to a very boring, not engaging to the audience, and that's basically not delivering the right message. So build logic for each slide. Maybe I would suggest before building a slide, take a sketch blackboard or maybe a piece of paper and try see and write it down what you want to achieve from these slides. And then you start building the content. The first thing, what are you achieving from these slides? That is very important. Find fact-based theory. That is important. If you do not have a fact, people will not be believing in your arguments. So have a facts ready, and those facts should be also referred somewhere. Choices of words and phrases is very important because you have a limited space in your entire screen, your deck. So choices of words and phrases are very important. And another important thing, what value it brings for audience. Try and look at from the audience perspective. What they want to look at, is that something which you want to tell them, or it's something which they want to hear? And last not the least is acknowledge the team. Whoever has contributed, do not forget your team to acknowledge. Few of the presentation tips is have a short executive summary, backup slides always ready, so that if any questions comes in, you are always have more and more better justifications, right? Tell a very compelling story. Make it visual. We have already spoken. Use graphs, charts, pictures to make your story very, very much visual. Any slide which you make, write anticipated questions, because that's something which we don't write it. And all these anticipated questions, you write all probable answers and options. That will help you to give a more reasonable explanations to the audience and reach to the situation where you can have a agreement. Keep the reference for each data point. That's very important. Don't tell them what you know. I have seen n number of presentations where people just want to tell them what they know. They put each and every content in the slides or in the data or in the document which they know. They forget what they need to know, what audience need to know. So try and see that who's your audience. Like today, my major audience is first year engineering student, right? If I start showing them the rockets, how to make the rockets, how to make the big medical devices, I think it may not be very, very much relevant at this stage today. I think it's what is more relevant is to understand how it connects. What are the building blocks? So probably in the next 4 years, you will learn many things. So that is very important, what they need to know or what your audience need to know, right? Don't produce 50 slides. That is not going to help you. People will forget. I think in the beginning of my slides, I've written that people forget whatever you write. What they get it is a simple message. So keep it very simple. After 3 or 4 slides, I have seen many people just give up if we don't connect. Okay. This is one of the slides which I have prepared. Maybe we can put a quick poll on this. Dhananjay sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please.
Yeah, we can't hear you, Dhananjay sir. So maybe we just want to understand from the student what they want to understand, what they understood from this particular slide which I'm presenting here on my screen.
Can you hear me, sir, now?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah. Dear participants, the speaker is asking you to respond in the chat box in YouTube or Facebook, wherever you are connected to. What is your understanding about this presentation slide? What can you see here in this photo? Yeah, I'll be looking forward for your response. We'll give a pause of 30 seconds and let's see how many of you do answer.
So just to give you a brief, there is a company called Spacecraft. They make softwares, and they made a very nice software which can save fuel of aircraft, passenger aircraft. And this software essentially saves about 20% fuel. Good. Okay, so let me connect this slide to the Simon Sinek slide. How
Yeah, Mr.
and we
Shailesh.
start.
Yeah, Mr.
Yeah.
Shailesh, we have got some responses from the student. Students are
Okay.
telling ki new structure. Speaker is trying to show some new structure which will increase the efficiency of the aircraft. Somebody is
Very
talking
nice.
about new design. He's talking about somebody is looking at your screen on the left hand side, which has Microsoft, a lot of things written in coding, decoding. So they're talking about the speaker is trying to talk about AI based craft. Somebody is talking about electric plane. It is
Okay.
an electric plane, as you can see on the screen. So a lot of answers are coming similar to this. Yeah, over to you, Mr. Salish.
Fantastic. So yeah, essentially, I think more or less people are correct here. There is a company called Spacecraft makes a nice software. These are all imaginary situation, by the way. Uh, made a very nice software which saves us 20% fuel. And currently, if you look at about 95 billion gallons every year, aircrafts uses fuel. So essentially, we are saying about 20 billion gallons fuel saving every year if we implement this software, right? So we address the why. We started why because the fuel consumption is something is very important. It will lower down the cost of the passengers and the airlines, right? It will also help aeroplanes to reach the longer destination without refueling, right? So that we have answered why. How? You can see that in FY21, financial year 21, we begin the trial. We will reach somewhere in between for the validation because it has to be going through the validation process. It has to prove its worth in commercial uh, environment, and then after that, it should go to the regulatory process, approval process, which will come to about financial year 25. If we do all this, how? We will go for a licensing. Maybe big companies like the Boeing or Airbus, and going and licensing those software to them. So this is we address the how part, right? So all this is basically a very nice story to tell. Uh,
So, dear participants, we have lost the speaker because of the technical glitch, and we will be getting connected to him in another 30 seconds. And the speaker is here.
yeah, sorry. I
No
think
problem, no problem.
let me share my screen again once back. Sorry for disturbance.
So by the time we get the speaker with the presentation ready, may I request the audience to be more participative, right? Because if you talk about today's session, it is all about storytelling. So for a person to be a very good storyteller, you should be a very good listener as well. So hope you are enjoying the session. Do ask your queries in between if you have anything to ask. And Mr. Shailesh is here with the presentation. Yeah, over to you,
Yeah,
Mr. Shailesh.
fantastic. So this is the another one which I wanted to share. Um, this is the very strong message delivered pictures. Can in the chat box you can write what is the message these two pictures delivers?
Dear engineering students, this is the time to show your skills of engineering. Before engineers, you are human beings, so show you are a student and do respond to this. We have two pictures on the right hand side, a fish inside the vessel wherein tap is there. Another one, I could see something similar to, I can say something, it is tomato, which are sliced, looks like tomato sauce, which has tomatoes at the top. So you use your imagination and do respond to the chat box. Parallelly, may I request Salish sir to go
Yeah.
in the presentation mode, full screen?
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no problem. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, dear participants, we are here with to see your responses. What do you see in the photo? What do you see in the presentation? Two pictures are there. What do you think about those pictures?
Good.
Okay, one of the response what I got is about the left side of the photo. People are telling if first picture shows the intelligence which is used in the vessel. Having tap, dirty water can be removed and the new water can be poured from the upside.
Very nice.
Another answer is from Atul. He is telling when water ends, fish dies, or when one tomato get dismantled, all will fall. Acha, dismantle.
Yeah.
Okay. All will fall. Very good. We have
Very
another
nice.
response. Ashani Singh. It shows how loss of one thing by can lead the loss of another. Okay, one loss can be the loss of others. Okay.
Yeah. Absolutely. Very nice.
It is
Very good
telling
response.
dependency of one on another one. One is dependent of another.
Absolutely. Very good. Fantastic. Yeah. So simple message is save water.
Okay.
If you do not save water, life will be at threat. Right. But yeah, I like the different perspective. The dirty water can be removed, and the fresh water can be poured in. So yeah, I think those are very nice and different perspective. Uh, but yeah, important message was that save water. If we cannot save water, more and more life will be on threat. On the second picture here, if you look at here, it's basically a very famous advertisement of Heinz tomato ketchup. It's made of tomatoes, just tomatoes, nothing else, right? So yeah, powerful messages saying that no additives, it's just made of tomatoes. Couple of more pictures on your left side, top up. Maybe more comments now for these three pictures.
So, dear participants, the speaker is very happy to see the participation of you. So, it is your time to deliver back. Come as per the expectation of Mr. Salish. What do you see in the first photo on the left hand side? The greener world is what I can see. Can you respond back in the chat box? I can see the chat box. There are messages like difficult to answer.
Mhm.
Looks like difficult question to be asked. You have asked a difficult question. Chaitanya is telling safe forest.
Yeah,
Okay.
very good.
Atul is once again responding. First place is known as heart of world, where lots of oxygen is produced.
Very nice.
Somebody is telling looks like forest is the lung of earth.
Very good.
Somebody is telling nature is the lungs of earth. Uh, Seeing in the first picture, left to right side, Muhammad is telling oxygen is getting reduced because of reduction of the trees or the greener world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody is talking about save tree afforestation, do not do deforestation.
Yeah.
It
I think these
shows
are
that
all. Yeah.
loss of
Yeah.
life is biggest threat,
Absolutely.
and so on. Many messages similar to that. Over to the
That's it.
speaker.
Probably you may not be able to read this as a smaller font. Sorry for that. It says horrifying and it says more horrifying. Can you guess something about this pictures, two pictures? Why this
Dear
is more?
participants, we are talking about the second picture, which has a whale on the left hand side, horrifying. On the right hand side, no, nothing can be seen. So more horrifying.
Yeah, it's basically a shark.
Acha, sorry, shark.
Yeah, it's a shark. It's a horrifying whenever you see shark in the sea, but it is more horrifying probably when you don't see. So yeah,
In the
simple,
comment box,
simple.
I can see. Yeah, in the comment box, dear speaker, we can see the answers from the student is on the left
Mhm.
hand side is shark, which is horrifying. No shark means no. It is so dirty that we do not have any living being there. So that is
Absolutely,
more horrifying.
absolutely, 100%. So that's a very strong message. Yeah, it is basically part of our nature, right? But if we start removing and imbalancing natures, probably it will be more horrifying for all of us, right? This is the last one. Dettol, very famous ad, kills 99.9% germs, but still it says be 100% sure, right? So this is it's very strong message saying that they don't kill the 100% because practically, if you look at killing 100% bacteria or germs is impossible theoretically, right? But they can they can kill 99.9% and still make sure you are 100% sure. So yeah, I think that's all for today for the presentation. We may flip through the deck once again and let me know if you have any more questions in your comment box. Then we can have a one-on-one more interactions. So we talked about the world is made of many stories. It is not about the molecules, atoms just alone. Molecule atoms also tells the stories, right? We talked about ikigai. Sorry, ikigai is for reason for being. Is that a very famous Japanese theory? Uh, Read more and more about this. It will give you a perception why you exist, why what we need to do it when you are doing engineering um, here. After that, what is your aim, right? Start preparing for that. Look for this video. This is, if you have not seen yet, this is very interesting video, about 15-20 minutes video. It talks about the Apple innovation, the iPhone, Apple innovations, right? Apple company innovations, why we do that, why Steve Jobs has done, and how he has done, and what he has achieved after that. uh, Go back to again in this slide. Many times we just do the reverse way. First thing we do what, and then how and why. But start with the why. I think you'll get answer much easier. Put more and more visuals in your story if you can, right? Build a structure for your story. Start with the situation, complications, and questions. Always frame questions. If you do not frame your questions right, you will not find your answers right. So frame your question right. build the argument supported by data, and arrive the conclusion. You will find many messages how to build a nice slides. There are few very key important build slide from left to right. That's a very evident flow. Always deliver a key message. Fact-based theory, choice of words, and what value it brings for audience. That is very important. And then there are a few examples. So with this, I think, yeah, we can talk about more any experiences, your queries. I can share one story about our life or my life when I was engineer like you about 20 years, 21 years back. Um, Very difficult. I was always very enthusiastic. I will go and change the world. That's everybody. Probably you will also have the same scenarios. I went to a program in HBTU. We call it Harcourt Butler Technological University now, for a chemical engineering with a specialization in biochemical engineering. After joining 1 week, one of the senior I met, he said, "Oh, you joined this branch? This branch is difficult to get a job, you know." So I was very depressed, and I was saying that what I've done it. But one of my friend who also joined same branch, and he said, "You focus on your studies. Think about what we can learn in next 4 years." And we just did that. We focused 4 years only on learning and learning. Right? Every day we had an aim to learn something from the classrooms. We debated ourselves. After this class, we found that in biochemical engineering we can do mostly the job in fermentation industry, mostly into alcohol industry. That was our main aim. Unfortunately, we were not so much privileged like you guys, having internet, laptops, mobile phones, uh, better connectivity. And in this age, we have to write all the letters that time. 5 billion gallons every year. So with that mindset, we started finding jobs in fermentation industries, especially in alcohol industry. Luckily, I saw one advertisement in IIT Kanpur, where in Department of Civil Engineering, in environmental engineering, they were asking for a fermentation guy, and I applied. I got it. I saw, oh, I can do something in waste management industry as well, effluent treatment as well. So that my perspective opened from alcohol industry to a effluent treatment industry. From there, I completed the project. I moved to a IIT Delhi. There was a project in Department of Biochemical Engineering, and there I learned about the agribiotech, which is made of fermentations. I said, oh, there is another industry opened up from effluent treatment. From alcohol, I moved to agribiotech industry, enzyme productions. So your perspective will be keep on increasing. When you expose to the various things, you might be thinking, I have done probably a mechanical engineering, right? I will go and only build a large machines, but may not be right. As a mechanical engineer, you can develop a nice medical devices, right? It may not be big machines. It will be a very, very small devices which can go probably inside somebody's heart, somebody's brain, and treat patients. So it is not necessarily what you thought of, you do the same thing. Today, I work for a medical device company as a chemical engineer, right? So think about how you can gain a knowledge and look at what I said, that why are you doing that? Then you are how and what. Your perspective will be keep on increasing. Any questions
Great,
or
sir. Thank you so
clarifications?
much for taking us through your life, journey of the life. We have a lot of people who are asking, audience who is asking, and one of the very senior, most audience,
Mhm.
Dr. Ashok Shukla, sir. who heads the Department of Chemistry at East Point College of Engineering, and who is an active listener during all our sessions. And fortunately, he belonged to the same university from where you have done BTech. Sir also has
Mm-hmm.
done. We will discuss with him before taking the questions from the audience. We have a lot of questions to be answered by you. A lot
Yeah.
of people are requesting for the link. If with your permission, can I share the screen to the audience and let them see the video you were talking about? Why?
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
So, dear viewers, this is for you on your request. Let's have a look to this screen.
Where do you start when you have a program that's about integrating likes with passions? Well, you start with why. Why? And that kicks us off for the first speaker tonight, Simon Sinek, in his talk, Start with Why.
We assume even we know why we do what we do. But then how do you explain when things don't go as we assume? Or better, how do you explain when others are able to achieve things that seem to defy all of the assumptions? For example, why is Apple so innovative? Year after year after year after year, they're more innovative than all their competition. And yet they're just a computer company. They're just like everyone else. They have the same access to the same talent, the same agencies, the same consultants, the same media. Then why is it that they seem to have something different? Why is it that Martin Luther King led the civil rights movement? He wasn't the only man who suffered in a pre-civil rights America, and he certainly wasn't the only great orator of the day. Why him? And why is it that the Wright brothers were able to figure out controlled powered manned flight when there were certainly other teams who were better qualified, better funded, and they didn't achieve powered manned flight? And the Wright brothers beat them to it. There's something else at play here. About 3.5 years ago, I made a discovery. And this discovery profoundly changed my view on how I thought the world worked, and it even profoundly changed the way in which I operate in it. As it turns out, there's a pattern. As it turns out, all the great and inspiring leaders and organizations in the world, whether it's Apple or Martin Luther King or the Wright brothers, they all think, act, and communicate the exact same way, and it's the complete opposite to everyone else. All I did was codify it. And it's probably the world's simplest idea. I call it the golden circle. Why, how, what? This little idea explains why some organizations and some leaders are able to inspire where others aren't. Let me define the terms really quickly. Every single person, every single organization on the planet knows what they do 100%. Some know how they do it, whether you call it your differentiating value proposition or your proprietary process or your USP. But very, very few people or organizations know why they do what they do. And by why, I don't mean to make a profit. That's a result. It's always a result. By why, I mean what's your purpose? What's your cause? What's your belief? Why does your organization exist? Well, as a result, the way we think, the way we act, the way we communicate is from the outside in. It's obvious. We go from the clearest thing to the fuzziest thing. But the inspired leaders and the inspired organizations, regardless of their size, regardless of their industry, all think, act, and communicate from the inside out. Let me give you an example. I use Apple because they're easy to understand and everybody gets it. If Apple were like everyone else, a marketing message from them might sound like this. We make great computers. They're beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. Want to buy one? Meh. And that's how most of us communicate. That's how most marketing is done, that's how most sales is done, and that's how most of us communicate interpersonally. We say what we do, we say how we're different or how we better, and we expect some sort of behavior, a purchase, a vote, something like that. Here's our new law firm. We have the best lawyers with the biggest clients. We have, we always perform for our clients, do business with us. Here's our new car. It gets great gas mileage. It has, leather seats. Buy our car. But it's uninspiring. Here's how Apple actually communicates. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. We just happen to make great computers. Want to buy one? Totally different, right? You ready to buy a computer from me? All I did was reverse the order of the information. People don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. This explains why every single person in this room is perfectly comfortable buying a computer from Apple. But we're also perfectly comfortable buying an MP3 player from Apple, or a phone from Apple, or a DVR from Apple. But as I said before, Apple's just a computer company. There's nothing that distinguishes them structurally from any of their competitors. Their competitors are all equally qualified to make all of these products. In fact, they tried. A few years ago, Gateway came out with flat screen TVs. They're eminently qualified to make flat screen TVs. They've been making flat screen monitors for years. Nobody bought one. Dell came out with MP3 players and PDAs. And they make great quality products, and they can make perfectly well-designed products, and nobody bought one. In fact, talking about it now, we can't even imagine buying an MP3 player from Dell. Why would you buy an MP3 player from a computer company? But we do it every day. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. The goal is not to do business with everybody who needs what you have. The goal is to do business with people who believe what you believe. Here's the best part. None of what I'm telling you is my opinion. It's all grounded in the tenets of biology, not psychology, biology. If you look at a cross-section of the human brain, looking from the top down, what you see is the human brain is actually broken into three major components that correlate perfectly with the golden circle. Our newest brain, our Homo sapien brain, our neocortex, corresponds with the what level. The neocortex is responsible for all of our rational and analytical thought and language. The middle two sections make up our limbic brains, and our limbic brains are responsible for all of our feelings, like trust and loyalty. It's also responsible for all human behavior, all decision-making, and it has no capacity for language. In other words, when we communicate from the outside in, yes, people can understand vast amounts of complicated information like features and benefits and facts and figures. It just doesn't drive behavior. When we communicate from the inside out, we're talking directly to the part of the brain that controls behavior, and then we allow people to rationalize it with the tangible things we say and do. This is where gut decisions come from. You know, sometimes you can give somebody all the facts and your figures, and they say, I know what all the facts and details say, but it just doesn't feel right. Why would we use that verb? It doesn't feel right. Because the part of the brain that controls decision-making doesn't control language. And the best we can muster up is, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. Or sometimes you say you're leading with your heart, or you're leading with your soul. Well, I hate to break it to you, those aren't other body parts controlling your behavior. It's all happening here in your limbic brain, the part of the brain that controls decision-making and not language. But if you don't know why you do what you do, and people respond to why you do what you do, then how will you ever get people to vote for you or buy something from you, or more importantly, be loyal and want to be a part of what it is that you do? Again, the goal is not just to sell people who need what you have. The goal is to sell to people who believe what you believe. The goal is not just to hire people who need a job. It's to hire people who believe what you believe. I always say that, you know, there's if you hire people just because they can do a job, they'll work for your money. But if you hire people who believe what you believe, they work for you with blood and sweat and tears. And nowhere else is there a better example of this than with the Wright brothers. Most people don't know about Samuel Pierpont Langley. And back in the early 20th century, the pursuit of powered man flight was like the dot-com of the day. Everybody was trying it. And Samuel Pierpont Langley had what we assume to be the recipe for success. I mean, even now, when you ask people, why did your product or why did your company fail? And people always give you the same permutation of the same three things. Undercapitalized, the wrong people, bad market conditions. It's always the same three things. So let's explore that. Samuel Pierpont Langley was given $50,000 by the War Department to figure out this flying machine. Money was no problem. He held a seat at Harvard and worked at the Smithsonian and was extremely well connected. He knew all the big minds of the day. He hired the best minds money could find, and the market conditions were fantastic. The New York Times followed him around everywhere, and everyone was rooting for Langley. And how come we've never heard of Samuel Pierpont Langley? A few hundred miles away in Dayton, Ohio, Orville and Wilbur Wright. They had none of what we consider to be the recipe for success. They had no money. They paid for their dream with the proceeds from their bicycle shop. Not a single person on the Wright brothers team had a college education, not even Orville or Wilbur. And the New York Times followed them around nowhere. The difference was Orville and Wilbur were driven by a cause, by a purpose, by a belief. They believed that if they could figure out this flying machine, it'll change the course of the world. Samuel Pierpont Langley was different. He wanted to be rich and he wanted to be famous. He was in pursuit of the result. He was in pursuit of the riches. And lo and behold, look what happened. The people who believed in the Wright brothers' dream worked with them with blood and sweat and tears. The others just worked for the paycheck. And they tell stories of how every time the Wright brothers went out, they would have to take 5 sets of parts because that's how many times they would crash before they came in for supper. And eventually, on December 17th, 1903, the Wright brothers took flight. And no one was there to even experience it. We found out about it a few days later. And further proof that Langley was motivated by the wrong thing, the day the Wright brothers took flight, he quit. He could have said, that's an amazing discovery, guys. Now we'll improve upon your technology. But he didn't. He wasn't first. He didn't get rich. He didn't get famous. So he quit. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And if you talk about what you believe, you will attract those who believe what you believe. Well, why is it important to attract those who believe what you believe? Something called the law of diffusion of innovation. And if you don't know the law, you definitely know the terminology. The first 2.5% of our population are our innovators. The next 13.5% of our population are our early adopters. The next 34% are your early majority, your late majority, and your laggards. The only reason these people buy touch-tone phones is because you can't buy rotary phones anymore. We all sit at various places at various times on the scale, but what the law of diffusion of innovation tells us is that if you want mass market success or mass market acceptance of an idea, you cannot have it until you achieve this tipping point between 15 and 18% market penetration, and then the system tips. And I love asking businesses, what's your conversion on new business? And they love to tell you, oh, it's about 10%, proudly. Well, you can trip over 10% of the customers. We all have about 10% who just get it. That's how we describe them, right? That's like that gut feeling, oh, they just get it. The problem is, how do you find the ones that just get it before you're doing business with them versus the ones who don't get it? So it's this here, this little gap, that you have to close, as Jeffrey Moore calls it, crossing the chasm. Because you see, the early majority will not try something until someone else has tried it first. And these guys, the innovators and the early adopters, they're comfortable making those gut decisions. They're more comfortable making those intuitive decisions that are driven by what they believe about the world and not just what product is available. These are the people who stood online for 6 hours to buy an iPhone when they first came out, when you could have just walked into the store the next week and bought one off the shelf. These are the people who spent $40,000 on flat screen TVs when they first came out, even though the technology was substandard. And by the way, they didn't do it because the technology was so great. They did it for themselves. It's because they wanted to be first. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And what you do simply proves what you believe. In fact, people will do the things that prove what they believe.
Yep. I think it's a pretty nice video. It's very long, and you will find many such videos of Simon online, not about only Apple, but many other theories. I see many questions coming in here in the chat box.
A lot of
Maybe-
questions. Yeah, definitely. A lot of questions are there. So what I got from the video was, people do not want to listen to you. Why? What do you do? They want an answer for why do you do, right? So having
Absolutely.
said that, a lot of questions are there in the chat box. We can take it one by one.
Yeah.
Okay, you can see principal sir was there. Although he was not free, he was occupied, as Maruti sir was telling. he had the time to type this question, and he has sent the question to you.
Very nice.
Why do feel it's important teachers should have storytelling skills? Why do you think this is important?
Very, very good questions, Dr. Prakash. One important thing is that in any class or in any meeting room, there are a mix of audience. And in the mix of audience, you have different people have a different expectations, right? Different skill sets. Somebody in your classroom might be very strong in analysis, but somebody might be very good in literature. So the interest level varies a lot. And if as a teacher, if I or you find what is the common interest in the entire classroom, I can have a very influencing story, and then it can be more attentive in the class. Otherwise, that is why you see that in many classes, some of the students lose the interest, and some of the students have a very strong interest. They learn faster because we are able to connect with those students much faster. And probably maybe I will go a little on by Bollywood side. When you see the Three Idiot movie, so there was a classroom, right? And where Amir Khan was saying that yes, we know that this subject much better, but how to teach, that is something which we are trying to say. So I believe it's more understanding the students group, what the group consists of. Like today, as I mentioned, that this is the first year student. If I would have talked about something very advanced, I know that many of these guys may not be probably exposed to the PowerPoint, right? And if I start talking about much detail in the PowerPoint which corporate uses now, probably they will lose the interest. So let's start thinking, putting some seed into them. Let them go back, and whenever they are going to present to you people in the institute, let's start thinking why they are presenting this, right? Let them come up with the more creative ideas. Let's see that Dr. Prakash might be something, and something like may not be Dr. Murthy like. So they will start looking at. I experienced myself. One of my boss or manager used to like a lot of Excel sheets. Until unless you don't present the Excel sheet, all the presentations are not correct, right? And another person who never liked the Excel sheet, he just want the final number. What is the final number? Are you delivering this final number or not? If you're not, you are a fail guy, right? So I think we need to understand the audience. That is very important to of the storytelling style. And once you know, then you're done. Very, very simple example I'm giving you again. Can anybody write in the chat box who buys the Enfield Bullet? Who buys the Enfield Bullet? So what say, you just need to close your eyes. To just you close your eyes and imagine who rides the Enfield Bullet. The guy must be very muscular, right? Not be very thin guy. Guys might be having a very big mustache, right? Maybe having few bands, and maybe Ray-Ban goggles on his eyes. So that is what is important. You should know that what is the audience. Infield cannot go and sell the bullet to the guy who's very weak, thin, may not have any charm. I have seen one fellow who was having a motorcycle worth of 5 lakh rupees. I said, myself cannot justify having a 5 lakh rupees motorcycle. I'll go probably buy a second-hand car, but I will not go and buy the motorcycle of 5 lakh rupees worth of. So this is very important to understand your audience and then build your story.
So, Mr.
Hope I
Savage,
answered.
yeah. You have answered the query, and the person, the gentleman on the screen, Dr. Prakash, who is the principal of East Point, is a true
Yep.
believer of that. He's a very good storyteller himself. He has a very good fan following when we talk about student fraternity, even faculties and all, whomever he speak to, as he's a very good storyteller. And you were talking about analytics. He's a true believer of number. You talked in
Yeah.
terms of, you were talking about one of the boss who was talking in terms of Excel. So, sir, also expect people to give return on investment, talk in number, analytics. You say the past percentage, you talk about the final outcome and the
Yeah.
ways to do it. If it is not done,
Yeah.
what are the ways to do it? So, sir, over to you, sir. Prakash, sir, if you
Yeah,
want to speak.
one question which usually students will ask is, tomorrow storytelling becomes very important when you go to the employer. Even
Mhm.
though today I want to sell myself to employer who is sitting in front of me, who want to pick me up. I want you to just give that input to the students. Probably these students or few students who are watching could be after 2 or 3 years they are looking for a job. How storytelling becomes too important when they want to sell themselves to an employer?
Fantastic. I think that's a very important question, Dr. Prakash. And I've seen taking so many interviews in my last 20 years career. Um, we get the candidate probably in next 2 minutes. The moment candidate starts speaking, we know that whether it is hired or not. And that's all basically a storytelling style. And if you look at my pyramid structure, it basically talks about, situation, complications, and questions. So, what is your opening statement? Why you are here today in your interview? There is always say interview is never given; it is always taken, right? So it depends how you move the entire story in one directions which you want to drive it, rather than interviewer want to drive it. So the first, I think, first important lesson, though these people are very far from interview right now, maybe 3 years at least, but I think one thing important whenever you are going to for any meeting or interview, see that who is the attendees, right? Maybe today in Word we have a LinkedIn, we have a many social media platforms, websites. Try and see that who are the guys you are going to present it or going to meet. Understand their nature, right? With their post you will be able to understand what type of person he is or she is, and try and build your story according to that. Another content was there in my presentation: anticipate questions. So when you know the audience, build your question library now, build your answer sheet now. And the most important thing is practice, practice, practice. If you are reading your story, that is why I have not written in my entire place story reading. It is always storytelling. So presentation, though you are making, but you are not supposed to read the presentation. You have to tell the presentation. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. It is, it's not just about what we are telling; it's about what they are taking. It's all about what they take. That we need
Absolutely.
to get prepared for that. Uh, I always felt this. Many of my students, they have a lot of hidden things, but they're not able to tell it very nicely to the people who are sitting in front of us. I
Absolutely.
think this is one skill I think I always felt. I think people didn't tell us, but we started inculcating it and building it and empowering ourselves. But
Yeah.
in fact, every teacher should have that skill of storytelling. It is,
Absolutely.
or else he can't be a good teacher.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have seen in the organization also, sir, um, R&D person sells his story to the management. Then management invest in R&D, right? After that, once the product is developed, the R&D person sells his story to the production department. So the production department is agreeing that yes, this can be produced at the reasonable cost, right? Once the production makes this, marketing people sell this story to the salesperson that yes, this is why it can sell into the market. And then the salesperson come into the picture where he goes to sell to the external person to the sales, right? So everybody
Another
sells a story within the organization.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. And I have seen that many times fight between production and quality because they are not able to sell the story between each other. So yeah.
Correct.
Great, sir. Moving forward, our own professor, Dr. Nagaraj Sitaram sir, has commented in the chat box. He says very nice presentation. A lot of comments we have got similar to this. Sir, is it possible to make a basic principles of learning like a movie film where students can interact and experiment so that they will not forget like a movie, like the concept they will not forget?
Yeah, certainly. That is one of the area which we can think of, make a movie like, but I think the interactive session is also very important, where like today a student can react and we can answer their queries. And if it is a only movie, it will be only one side conversation. So that is one limitation of making movie. Second limitation is, in the movie is, if the audience changes, the mix of audience changes, the movie remains the same. So is that movie is going to deliver the same message to that audience? All the people will not like the Salman Khan movie. Some people will like Shah Rukh Khan also. So movie may remain there, but audience keeps on changing. So I think it is always good to have this type of sessions. And I personally believe, till though we are living in internet era, uh, in-person interaction is very important, and I think that we need to continue live with that.
Wonderful. One more faculty has asked a question. A lot of questions we are getting from faculties. Uh, how to invite student for interaction through storytelling as a teacher?
Very, very, very insightful question, I think. um, See, it's basically all about practice, as we mentioned that it will not come just probably one day. One thing is that it takes a lot of time for a practice. Second thing is that there are natural storytellers. Probably from their childhood with their mother, they were making all the excuses, and they are becoming very nice storyteller. So uh, so there are natural storytellers I have seen in my life, and there are people who have actually gone very shy, very introverts, and they become a very nice storytellers. So yes, student can become a very nice storyteller. Anybody, in fact, everybody has to become a storyteller. That is my strong opinion. Yeah, hope I have answered your question.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you so much. We have another question as is storytelling an art or skill?
uh, it's basically a art. It's basically a art which starts with the skills. So it's basically a conscious mind. You start working on skills with a conscious mind, and then it becomes unconscious mind and becomes art. It automatically, naturally start flowing from you. Whatever you say, it becomes story.
Absolutely.
True. Very, very precisely portrait. It is unconscious mind and conscious mind. When you are
Yes.
conscious, it is a skill, you learn it. When you have the expertise of storytelling, it becomes an art which comes on its own, flawless.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wonderful, nicely said. We'll take another question from the participant, if we have any. A lot of messages are coming with thank you, wonderful session, a lot of appreciations we are seeing. Can we have some questions as well? Parallelly, if Prakash sir, you have any personal question to ask, you can ask on behalf of all.
Sir, how to see, for example, I want to just to the benefit of the student community and the teaching fraternity. Now, usually we have made it mandatory for all the students that when they listen to each and every 1 week session from different speaker, they are supposed to write a reflection paper on that, or else people will simply listen from this year and leave from this year.
Yeah.
So we have made it mandatory that everyone should write. Now, in this process, everyone who have come as a speaker has told about the story. how do you articulate in terms of a documentation so that it become a final product? One storytelling, for example, I still remember Chanda Mama in my old times, probably.
Yeah,
Knows about this Chanda Mama, we used to read a lot with
yeah,
pictures, and only picture used to be there, and we used to read. How do I
yeah,
really articulate and document as a certain things which becomes set of series for the people?
yeah, yeah. I think that's a good question. One important thing is that to structure the presentation. If you look at the pyramid structure again, going back there, ask everyone to seriously think about those sequence, right? The situation, the complications, and the question. SCQ is that they are going to answer SCQ. That is number one, and then start looking at their arguments. Okay, and after that arguments, what data they support. So many times the data is supported are in Excel form. Convert those Excel form into the more readable visual forms, right? Maybe as a faculty, you need to start saying to them, restrict number of content. Let's say one slide should not have more than 100 words. Whatever you do it, let them have a brainstorming and seeing that whatever way they want to present it, it should not be exceeding more than 100 words. So that will throw them up a scenario where they will look for phrases, they will look for good choices of words, right? And at the end of that, what is the key message you want to deliver, right? So as I mentioned, that we have to take a conscious effort in the beginning, skills, and then it will go to the art. Ask each person, take a blank paper before making any slide. Write down what you want to achieve from these slides, what your professor want to hear from this slide, right? Have those rough sheets also be as a backup for checking. So those conscious efforts we have to make, and once it moves to the level of unconscious side, art side, I think then we can leave it to them to fly down. I also don't want to restrict their creativity anytime, any point, because if we put too much restriction, it will also seize the creativity. Otherwise, Apple would have not born. They would have not thought why first. They would have also thought what first, right? So I don't want to seize their creativity, but in the meantime, we need to look at the structure, how we can structure them, s- push them into the streamline thinking process.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, dear participants, while answering this question, the speaker you would have seen, the speaker has come once again to why. Jot down why are you doing that assignment? What is the expectation of a teacher from out of that assignment? Start doing that so that you are on the same path. You do not get distracted. You do not start writing something else, and have a cross check. Why did you start doing this assignment? With this note, I have another question from your own. Yeah, this is for Mr. Shailesh. I have a
Hmm.
question which is asked from your own senior. Senior, I
Hmm.
mean, the place you have done your BTech.
Hmm.
Sir is asking Dr. Ashok Shukla, sir. Yeah. Sir is asking, although we have been hearing about storytelling since our childhood, are there any
Huh?
short training courses on storytelling to master it?
I think there are many. There are many now in the internet era. There are many. There are coaches who can give you the definitive structure of this storytelling style. This was a very short course. In fact, we just ran here. If you go to the online academy like Udemy's and other platforms, you will find many storytelling style. But my thing is that the core we have delivered today. If you look at the core will not change. The only thing we need to just do the practice. We have to keep on looking at the practice sessions. One important thing my professor also used to say always: you are working for yourself. You are making all these reports for yourself. Don't make it for myself. And I think that is true till today also. Even though if you go to the corporate, people make the report for bosses. But the productivity comes when I see that, yes, I make reported for myself so that I can analyze, I can improvise on those reports. Then it is more productive in the organization also. But unfortunately, if you look at in the large organizations, people make reports for bosses.
Nicely said. Uh, Bitter but true fact. With this, we have another question from one of the professor from computer science department. Professor Shilpa Patil is asking, what is the role of body language and expressions in storytelling for a teacher?
I think very important, and that is a piece of missing now in the online programs, especially. Many of organizations started asking employees to switch on the cameras instead of just meeting on the Skype or Teams, so that they can still have eye contacts and at least some body language expressions. Um, I don't have a content. Probably I will share sometime next. There is a very nice article. The two dimensions happens. Um, if we are just without video, if somebody is nodding the head, we will not come to know, right? So it's a very important, and we are not able to understand whether person is nodding the head is in agreement or not, and we keep on delivering our message. Correct. So body language is one of the very important. I think you've seen Simon Sinek video now. Look at his body language, how strongly he goes on certain words, and then he puts his pen on the board, saying that yes, this is why it's important. He emphasizes that body language will not be seen in without any video or visuals. Yep.
Nice. So basically, you were trying to say that storytelling is not only about speaking. It is about an art which comes from the body language. It is a communication which need not to be always verbal. It can be written. It can be, because a person who cannot speak also can
Yeah.
communicate. Also
Yes.
can say a story, as somebody was drawing, right? So yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. We have a lot many questions if we have time. Okay. Ashok Sukla sir, your own senior is asking once again, why the storytelling is not becoming popular in India for professionals, although it is very exercised in US and Western countries.
Yeah, I think that's a very good observation, Ashok Sarji. See, typically our education system from class 1 to class 12 is very bookish in knowledge, right? We don't expose our kids to go to the real world. If you look at the Western cultures or Western education systems, where the class high school students also goes and work for part time, you know, and exposed to various industries. So that is why they are pretty much very open. I think it's inherent with them from the education systems, from the culture they grow up, than where we are more in bookish till we become a graduate, our parents still supporting us, right? So so that's a, I think, cultural differences between two countries or two regions. But I'm seeing, yeah, it is changing a lot now in India also. People are accepting that storytelling is one of the most effective things where it makes people successful. Look at the today's scenario where there are many startup companies, many innovators in the universities or institutions or incubation centers, but very few to secure the fundings. It is not like somebody's product is good, somebody's technology is good. It is somebody's story is good. They are able to tell the story to the investors. Investors might be coming from a purely financial background, right? They also possess very good knowledge now. Uh, but in the meantime, I have developed a product fully technical. You've seen that my slide where there is some guy has developed the software. If I go and present the coding to the investor, he will not understand anything head and tail. What he is interested, 20 billion gallon dollar saving of fuel saving. Can what is the saving? That 20 billion turns out to be $35 billion of saving. $35 billion saving means, can he commercialize this product and generate $5 billion money? This is what his main objective. For generating 5 billion money, he needs to spend $5 million money, right? So this is what his story. He has to link all these things. I will invest 5 million. This company after 5 years, 10 years will go for IPO, and IPO will generate 5 billion, right? And why somebody will buy 5 billion solution? Because they are going to save 35 billion. So he has to connect the point. He has sell the story. People will buy. Correct?
True, true, true. I'm sure having this kind of webinars and seminars on storytelling and the people like you who put it across to the audience, I'm sure India will have a lot of storytellers, and this will be as far as what sir was talking about in other Western countries. We have a lot of experts in storytelling, and we have a lot of people who practices that. We'll have more
Yeah.
practitioners here. Definitely, yes. How nicely you have put it. I have understood from your last statement was storytelling is an art, but again, we need to know how to pitch it. Customization of the story. What audience is looking at, what the person is looking at. We have to
Yeah.
narrate accordingly. Having this, we have the time says it is 3:26 in the afternoon. And thank you so much for joining with us, Mr. Shailesh Kumar. Over to Prakash sir for a minute before we take our host, G. Maruti sir, for vote of thanks. Sir, you are on mute. Prakash sir, you are on mute.
Yeah. Shailesh ji, thank you so much. It was very wonderful. In fact, I had some other meeting, in fact, scheduled, but I thought I should listen to you.
Thank you.
It is so important today, storytelling, and especially students need to understand this. It is very, many students just get into gadgets and listen. Probably we had that privilege of uh, listening out to students and our parents and storytelling. Now everything has gone to the online mode and all those things, but the way you communicate, the way you speak to the people, it is so important today. I think it was a great session. I was actually chatting on the WhatsApp to Dhananjay. We should have exclusive session for our pre-filer and filer students with you. I request on behalf of complete head of the Dhananjay team, I want you to one session for placement division exclusively on this topic. See,
Sure.
in terms of when the students go to group discussion and all those things, I see many students even don't, they take the topic somewhere else. They don't know how to sell the topic or make the argument. I think your
Yeah.
complete pyramid is very clear about that. I think Dhananjay, with your permission, I'm asking
Sir,
Shailesh
please.
Kumar sir once again time for him to come down and speak to my final students. It will benefit for them a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Fine, sir.
So, Mr.
Thank you once
Shailesh,
again, sir.
this is open invitation to you from our principal. And once that is done, so definitely, having seen your calendar, please let us know when can we connect again for pre-final and final year students.
Sure.
Thank you so much for your time. Can I request our host, Dr. Maruti sir, to join us for the vote of thanks?
Thank you, sir. Sir, actually, Shailesh Kumar, sir, my students are also actually the best storytellers. Whenever they come late for the class, they consider it beautiful stories. I think after listening to your session, my students will learn the skills and art of constructing the stories for their professions, and by selling their stories, let them succeed well in their profession. Let us wish them all the best now itself. Thank you very much for your session, sir. I understand how effective your session was, because by leaving all the assignment, my principal is there from 2 o'clock. I doubt whether he had his lunch or not, because after 2 o'clock he had a HOD's meeting. So from 2 to 3:30 continuously he is listening to you. Thank you very much on behalf of our East Point College of Engineering and Technology, on behalf of my principal, HODs, and my colleagues, especially on behalf of my students and on my personal behalf, I thank you. And as principals are requested, we hope you see you shortly in the next session for my final year and pre-final year students. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dhananjay sir, for moderating the sessions. And a special thanks to my principal sir, who is supporting from the day one. And I thank all my colleagues and also my students for listening to. Thank you, one and all, sir. Over to
Thank
you,
you.
Dhananjay.
Thank you, Shailesh
Thank
ji.
you all.
Once again, thank you, Shailesh ji. Namaskar.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings to the end of today's session. This was Mr. Sailesh Kumar from T Connectivity. He was talking about storytelling, which is an art, which is a skill, which everybody should know how to utilize. Practice, practice, and practice, because practice makes a man perfect. The same way goes with the other gender, man and woman. Yeah, we'll connect once again, dear participants. We'll connect once again on Monday morning at sharp at 10 o'clock with another power webinar on different topic. Stay tuned to us for further updates. Thank you so much for listening to us. Thank you so much. Be home, be at home, be safe. Take care of yourself and the near ones. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.